All right, guys. So we've been using a lot of different methods to solve quadratics, and today we're wrapping it up. So it's our final lesson on of solving quadratics. But today, again, we're going to be using the quadratic formula, but specifically, we're going to express our answers in simplest radical form. So you're going to need the packet that was posted on the Google Classroom, paper, a pen and calculator. It's mostly the same except for the end where you're going to need to follow step-by-step instructions, or else again you're going to get lost. So please be an active participant in today's lesson. So when we're solving our answer and we're going to express it in simplest radical form, we just need a quick refresher on how to simplify radicals. So when we're simplifying the square root of 72, we need to draw two empty radicals. And our goal is to find the biggest perfect square that goes into 72. And many of you are going to say 9, but it's not. The biggest perfect square is 36. However, if you're not sure, you're going to start dividing backwards with the number under 72. So we start with 64. If we do that, divide in our calculator, it's not a whole number. So then we go to 49. That's not a whole number. And then we divide by 36 and we get 2. So we know 36 is the biggest perfect square factor of 72. And our goal is to find those perfect squares. So we put 36 in the first radical and our answer is 2 in the second radical. And then we have to simplify the perfect square. Now, we always put the perfect square first because that's how we write it. It's just how we express numbers in math. Square root of 36 is 6. And then we bring down the radical 2. So that's our final answer is 6 radical 2. So that's an important concept for today. And we're going to build upon that later. All right, so we are now going to solve quadratics using the quadratic formula again, but today express our answer in simplest radical form. So together we're going to solve 2x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0 by using the quadratic formula. And again, like I said, we're going to answer our question in simplest radical form. So first thing is make sure it's set equal to 0, which it is. Next thing, label your a, b, and c. Remember, a is the number in front of the x squared, b is the number in front of x, which is 4, and c is our constant, which is negative 5. Okay? Pause the video, make sure you get this down. Next step is absolutely you need to write the formula in. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Then our next step is to write the skeletal framework, meaning just put those parentheses in, take out all the variables, and put the parentheses in. Okay, so now we're going to fill in the appropriate numbers like we did before. We're going to fill in 4 for all the b's. We're going to fill in 2 for all the a's and negative 5 for the c. Now we're going to calculate the 3 spots, the negative parenthesis 4 under the radical and then in the denominator. So first we're going to focus on the front, which is negative 4, parenthesis negative 4, which we get negative 4. Now we're going to focus under the radical. When you plug that in, you should get 56. And then in the denominator, 2 parenthesis 2 would give you 4. So this is all a review of what we've been doing for the past 2 days. Okay? Next step, separate our radical. So we're going to separate it to negative 4 plus radical 56 over 4 and x equals negative 4 minus radical 56 over 4. Again, still a review. Now we're going to evaluate it according to the instructions. And today is going to be express your answer in simplest radical form. So over on the side, I'm going to have everybody just write out the 56, okay? The 56 is the number under the radical, and we need to see if it can be simplified. So our goal is to find the biggest perfect square that goes into 56, and that would be 4. So we're going to do our 2 empty radicals, plug 4 under it, divide it into 56, and get 14. Now we're going to take the square root of the perfect square, which is 4, and we get 2 radical 14. Okay, so that's important. This is a skill that we've had from the beginning of the year. Now what we're going to do is we're going to replace that 2 radical 14 into those purple squares on the right and for 56. I'm sorry, 56. So what we're going to, like for the first one, I just took that 56 out and I wrote x equals negative plus 2 radical 14, replace the 56 with 2 radical 14 over 4. And then I'm just replacing the 56 in the bottom, or the one on the right, with 2 radical 14. Now this is where it gets a little crazy. So this wasn't so hard. You just had to replace the 56 with 2 radical 14, an equivalent expression, but in simplest radical form. But this is where you kind of think of fractions. What we do is we look at the numbers that are outside the radical. The 4, the 2, and the 4. The negative 4, sorry, the 2 and the 4. If all 3 of those numbers can be simplified by a common factor, then you need to simplify it, or else it's not in simplest radical form for the quadratic formula. So we look at all 4 of those numbers. What number can go into negative 4, 2, and 4? And hopefully you all said 2. And you're right, 2 can go into each of them. So if I divide 2 out of the first term, I'm left with negative 2. If I divide 2 out of the second term, I'm left with a plus 1 on top and a minus 1 on bottom. And then if I divide 2 out of each of the denominators, I'm left with 2. So that's how we would finally express our answer in simplest radical form. The first answer would be x equals negative 2 plus 1 radical 14 over 2. And the second one would be x equals negative 2 minus 1 radical 14 over 2. So that's the only difference now, is just replacing that radical with a radical in simplest form. Now, not all of them can be simplified, so you really have to check. And then you check to see if it can be simplified further. Okay? So you're going to complete the 4, try these on your own, and then check your answers with the answer key provided on the Google Classroom. If you got any wrong, please watch the second video where I guide you through all the examples. Actually, I'm going to do it individually like I did the last time with completing the square, so you don't have to go through every single one. Last, you're going to need to complete 4 problems on Delta Math, and that's what I'm going to be checking. I've also provided another video on how to insert your answers into Delta Math. In case you're having a problem with that, you're not sure how to get a fraction in there, or the radical, or the plus or minus. Just remember, you can do all your work on a separate sheet of paper. You don't have to print everything out. Just make sure you get these examples down, because this is like really important for your next 2 years of math. All right? Message me if you have any questions.